In this video, we are going to be figuring out how we can use symbols to represent the tiny parts of chromosomes. So we have already figured out that when you zoom in on the nucleus, excuse me, that's my foster dog in the background. He wants to be pet, so I'm going to pet him while I talk. So we've already figured out that when we zoom in on the nucleus of egg and sperm cells, so here's the nucleus, we can see chromosomes. This is a cow sperm and a cow egg, and we can see all these little worm-looking things are chromosomes. There are 30 chromosomes in a cow egg and 30 chromosomes in a cow sperm. This is important because we know that chromosomes come in pairs, but egg and sperm only have one of the two pairs in a pair of chromosomes. So that when that egg is fertilized by the sperm, then we have a complete set of, in this case for cows, 30 pairs of chromosomes. So, what exactly are chromosomes? So if we actually look at some pictures here, we can zoom in. This is an actual picture of chromosomes. They're very, very tiny. We know cells are tiny, and there's a bunch of chromosomes in the nucleus, which is just a part of the cell. So they're super, super tiny, but we can see they have this sort of line-like appearance. This second picture that we're looking at here is looking at one section of a chromosome, and we can see that it's made up of all sorts of different atoms. Zooming in even further, we can see what the structure of these chromosomes actually looks like. The different color atoms are representing different types of atoms. So any white circles are going to be hydrogen atoms, red are going to be oxygen, blue nitrogen, gray carbon, and green something called phosphorus. All atoms that we, with the exception of phosphorus, have encountered before this year. So what we're looking at now is the chromosome pair number 2. So what you can see, and what many of you have noticed as we've been looking at chromosomes, is that these chromosomes have bands on them. So there's these black bands that are on them. What I've done here is I've added some colors to show where there are corresponding bands on each pair of chromosomes. So these two orange lines represent one corresponding band. The two green lines represent another corresponding band on the two chromosomes. And the blues represent a third chromosome band. Take a moment and go ahead and answer this question that you see in the blue box. What additional patterns does using colored symbols like this help us see in chromosomes? Do you see anything else? Any other differences in these symbols? Okay, so what you should have noticed is that the orange bands or the orange colors are about the same width. The green is a little bit different. So this particular chromosome has a slightly wider green band than this one. And finally, this blue band on the first chromosome in the pair is much bigger than the width of the blue band on the second chromosome. What that's representing is actually different sizes in the bands. So rather than kind of make a judgment call by line thickness, what we're going to do is actually use symbols to represent when the bands are the same width and the two corresponding bands. So we're going to use this sort of orange cone shape to represent the orange bands and it's the same shape because these two bands are the same size. We're going to use the flag shape to represent the green band, and we're going to use the blue circle and this blue star to represent the blue band. Notice that these are two different symbols. That's because the thickness of the bands is different on the two chromosomes. So this first chromosome, again, is much thicker than the second chromosome. We're going to actually end up looking at multiple sets of chromosomes to try to look for patterns. So, we're going to be using these different color symbols that you see. And rather than using the images of the chromosomes themselves, we're just going to go ahead and start using a gray line to represent a chromosome. So, this is a chromosome pair. Each gray line is one of the chromosomes in the pair. This is one band. We know it's the same width because we're using the same shape. Likewise, with this green set of symbols, and the third band being represented by the blue, we know is different widths because we've got two different symbols here. Before I send you off to actually start working with all of these chromosomes and the symbols that we're going to use to represent what we see on the chromosomes, I would like to introduce a particular type of protein to you. So, we have lots of different types of proteins in your body, and this is just one of them, and it is called myostatin. And it turns out there are two variations of myostatin proteins. Variation one looks like this picture, and you can notice all of the atoms are really, really clumped together in this particular variation of the myostatin protein. Here's the second variation of myostatin protein. This particular variation is a little bit kind of, I would call it like holy. So lots of atoms still, but we've got these kind of areas where there aren't any atoms, so they're not as clumped together in variation two as they are in variation one. So what you're going to be doing next is you're going to be working with some different chromosomes and looking at the symbols that are represented on the chromosomes, and also thinking about these two different variations of the myostatin protein.